With a further ado, I'll pass it off to Mr. Largy.
Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you to the board. Thank you for hosting me. I'm really excited to be here and to have this opportunity to be a part of a school community I feel like it has a great and rich history and tradition, but is also on the upswing. I know my predecessor, Mr. Mello, has done an outstanding job, and so he's blazed a great trail for me to come into, and I'm really, really excited for the transition period that will be starting sooner and not later. So thank you again very much for welcoming me. I welcome any questions that you might have. As Tim said, I've served at the administrative level on the education side. I'm the Dean of Students. So at the moment, I deal with a lot of behavior. And I think this position, the Director of Physical Education and Sport, is a transition period, a position that will dovetail nicely with all of my experiences that I've had in the past. So again, I welcome any questions that you might have.
Can I just make a comment about the Director of Physical Education and Sport? You know, part of the job responsibilities of the athletic director, as we all know it, right, as the AD, right? And you just think about it as all the co-curricular activities at the school, both at high school and at Runlet. Steve will be working closely with Scott Owen over at the middle school and their programs. But there's also an element of providing support and supervision to physical education teachers since they have that background. So we were reminded tonight by our historian, Mrs. Hoadley, that was the title that was originally given for the position. So I didn't want to throw Steve off a little bit in terms of that. But I feel we're very fortunate to have Steve. It was a very rigorous process through the screening of applications, and then a meeting with different folks up at the high school. And then they had an evening where students, parents, coaches, staff all met in a rotation, so he had a chance to meet with different groups and answer all their questions, and he did a great job. And I have to say that I sat in with the students during those interviews, and the students were really looking for somebody to really connect with them and understand what it's like when they're at a game and what they need to have when they're at a game. So it was kind of interesting, and Steve was able to really connect with our students, and the folks that we talked to gave rave reviews of his work and his connections with school, with our students, and you know that's what we really need, right? So anyway, I don't know if you want to add anything else, Steve.
One thing I do want to add, I've had an eye on Concord. I grew up in the area. I went to school at Concord Christian when it was on North State Street, right down the road. So, you know, roots here I think run pretty deep for me. I live right down the road in Bow with my family, my two daughters. So Concord has been a destination for us. We lived in Nashua, where I worked for 9 years, where I got to coach, where I really cut my teeth on. And grew a passion for education. I worked in an alternative school where I worked with students of diverse backgrounds, and really with a focus on bringing them into the mainstream community, but also giving them the tools that they needed to succeed at whatever environment that they were in. I see coaching as what I did in the classroom. And so being a part of a team and being a part of a community that's vibrant, those are some of the things that I'm most proud of in my academic history, whether that's been on the curricular side, whether that's been with students at the middle school level, whether it's what I'm doing right now as a varsity girls basketball coach, as a former football coach. I love team building. I love being a part of great teams, and that's what I would look to do here. The motto in Concord, one of my favorite things is, one, you have this old school Latin motto, which you don't see public schools have much anymore. And on top of it is Concordia, And so Concordia means harmony, which is teamwork. You can't have harmony without being on a team and being a part of a team. And so I think that's very much part of the nature of who you are as a community and what I want to be and where I want to be. The word Concord also means with heart. The Latin words mean with, for you Latin scholars here. And so that is the other thing that I have always felt like I bring to the job is doing something with everything you can, doing it with your heart, and that's what we want for our student athletes, for anybody that's involved in co-curriculars, is that model of doing things with heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions? Mr. Richards?
Yes. Thank you very much. Mr. Largy, could you just tell us of some of your goals with regards to the physical education side of things for all of our students?
As John Wooden said, he never identified himself as a coach, but a teacher. And that's what we're all doing is educating, is teaching, is directing. And so what do we look to do in those situations is empower great teachers, is to put teachers in a position to be successful with their students, to put teachers in a position to motivate their students for what will come next. Not just high school, not just college, but to be lifelong learners. With regards to physical education, it's just as we spoke about earlier, it really is having that passion for activity and for whatever it is. Is it working on your golf swing? Is it you're a runner? I'm not, but my family, there are runners in my family. I think they're crazy. I wish I had that gene. It didn't get passed down. But challenging students, and then also igniting what that passion might be in terms of their attachment to physical education. And then it's also about building the capacity of the teachers that are still not there yet. So you do that by putting them with good teachers and by exposing them and giving them the tools to continue to be able to do just that, to motivate students to thrive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you. We look forward to having you.
Thank you.
And thank
much
you,
appreciate it.
we
Big
don't
vote
have to
coming
learn
later.
a name.
Good to see you
So
again, Barb.
later on in the meeting, I'll
Yes.
present his name and nomination. And when I talked about the committee, I also, Barb sat in on the committee representing the school board. So,
Nice.
if there's any other information, or Barb can certainly.
I will say, what made me like you, besides your experience, all that, is one of the questions asked was, what do you think is most important in your role as an athletic director? And the first word out of your mouth was relationships. And in any job you have, if we all can't function and have good relationships with our similarities and our differences and all of that, in our discussions when you left the room that was a huge, it's just important. And it can get lost in competitive arenas. Agendas become more important. So that's what I liked.
Thanks, Barb.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yep. She calls on this. He knows all the I didn't mean it. Say that to a competitor.
Superintendent, will you see if or some wave and see if they're ready?
His thumbs are up.
These thumbs are up.
Thumbs are up.
All right. Well, with that, we will officially start the meeting, and Ms. Meeker, will you call the roll?
With pleasure. Miss Boucher.
Here.
Miss Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Cotton.
Here.
Miss Hastings.
Here.
Miss Higgins.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And I am here. We have a quorum.
Okay. First item is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hastings. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Robinson. Any discussion? Mr. Cotton?
I would like to note that I did attend the regular monthly meeting on March 4th, and I'm not listed as being
Is that the minutes?
the minutes.
Okay, we're not at the minutes yet.
Just the agenda
Okay.
items.
And now we know.
Yeah, whatever.
Any other comments on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Second item is the consent agenda, and I believe we have an edit to the minutes of the regular monthly meeting.
Yes.
You want to,
For the second time, I would note that I attended on March 4th, and I'm not listed. Other than that, everything looked good to me, and I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
okay, is there a second? I believe there's,
We have some other.
I was gonna say,
Mr. Richards, is there other?
yes, on the same meeting as Mr. Cotton indicated, which is page 3 of our book, there is agenda item 7, the roll call vote should probably, in my
Page 11.
opinion.
Page 11.
Oh, sorry, on this one, it's.
Yep.
On this one, page 11, sorry. The roll call vote should be rewritten to indicate, the last names of
Yes.
the members that are there. Voted. And then another item is on page 31. I will note that on page 31, on the, let's see.
First paragraph.
The very first paragraph, the last line, a space of 3,000 square feet could accommodate and half a court, I believe is not a correct statement.
No, it should say, could accommodate a small room for wrestling and cheer pursuits.
Like a half a quart,
Yeah,
maybe?
half a court,
Half a
and it
quart.
should
Court.
be C-O-U-R-T.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I knew it.
I'm assuming that was a motion to make those
I would
changes?
make a motion to make those two changes, otherwise I support the passage of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Actually, it's already been second.
Oh, right.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, consent agenda passes with those corrections to the minutes. And next, I will turn it over to the superintendent to welcome the great Krista McAuliffe School. Some bias
So little
here.
bias.
It's allowed, it's
Let
allowed.
that pass. It's my pleasure to introduce the principal, Mrs. Gallo, and she has brought some students and will share an activity. I see she already got applause.
This will be fun. Thanks for inviting us. So I'm going to just ask the whole crew to come up and allow them to introduce themselves and their project. I will tell you, oh, come on up. Mrs. Stacy Perkins is heading up this presentation.
Can you use the mic, please?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Stacy Perkins, third grade teacher, will head up the presentation, and I'll allow everyone to introduce themselves. Great.
Use this really quickly. Hello, my name is Stacy Perkins. I am a third grade teacher at Krista McAuliffe School. I brought some of my students with me, so I'm going to let them just quickly tell you what their names are.
My name is Katie. My name is Adeline. My name is Cormac.
They are all students in my third grade class, and we came just to share really quickly about a project that we've been able to collaborate with some of the high school students up at CRTC in the construction trades program. So I'll also let them introduce themselves.
I'm Jesse Gregoire, the construction trades teacher.
Hi, I'm Brett Tuttle.
I'm Logan Perkins.
All right, so quickly, I think back around after winter break, I had watched I came across a video that inspired me to think a little bit outside the box for our classroom. And I reached out to Mr. Gregoire, Jesse, up at the high school, and I thought, I'm just gonna ask him if he would like to collaborate on a project with us. And thought the worst thing that could happen is he's gonna tell me no. So we went for it anyways, and I reached out, and we had never met. That was the first time we had ever met. And I said, would you be willing to just talk with me about something maybe we could do with a whole classroom of 8 and 9-year-olds, and then a full class of high school students from all over the area, not just Concord High, and he was willing to chat with me. And out of that came our GeoBoards project. So if you don't know what a GeoBoard is, we have some examples up here, but it's basically a tool with a whole lot, ours are tools with a whole lot of nails in them, And we met to figure out if there was a way that we could build them to be able to use them for upcoming math units that we have, and if the construction trades classes would be willing to help us do that. So out of that, we met a few times and kind of devised a plan. It was brand new for all of us to figure out how this would work. And I'm actually going to let the kids share so they can tell you. It took us 3 days to do this project for about an hour and a half each time, and we were learning along the way. But they came prepared with their notes to tell you about what they did on each one of the days. So I'm just going to let them go for it.
On day 1, our class went to the high school. We walked out of the building and on the bus we went. It was a little lad, but we ended up at the high school in like 2 seconds. The high school was really big. We walked in the classroom where the high school is built. There was a big house inside the room, but guess what? There was a smaller room inside that room that the high schoolers were in. We were excited to get to the high schoolers. We were all excited to get high schooler buddies. We took off our coats and put them on the shelf. 3 students from my class went to each table with 2 high schoolers to start. We used sandpaper to smooth out our wood in the big house that the CRTC was making. The house had lights, stairs, and even normal-sized rooms. We went in the room that the high schoolers were in at the beginning and asked them some questions. At the end, we drove back to school. On day 2, the CRTC came to our school, and this time we were in the cafeteria. And since we already made and painted our geoboards, we just needed to start making holes and putting in nails. Not really any person was able to put in all of their nails. When our class time was up, we put our geoboards on the stage. On day 3, our class went to the high school again. Miss Perkins and Mr. Gregoire helped us put our almost done geoboards on the tables. We went to the tables with our geoboards. This time, we had new buddies. We finished putting on the rest of our nails. Once we were done, we played a game with area. The high schoolers hardly remembered how to do area, so we had to teach them. Last, we had to do an exit ticket with the sheds the high schoolers just made. We measured the shed with a measuring tape. When we finished, we went back to school with our geoboards.
I learned what it was like to be in Concord High School if I joined CRTC. I got to go make a geoboard and have fun with it. The geoboards will help me with area, perimeter, and geometry. I got to see CRTC build a shed. CRTC is working on plumbing. That's why every Thursday you should go to CRTC. We would like to show you our boards.
I want to see them.
Yeah. We'll just walk them around. Maybe you can take a peek.
Sure. I can see them really good from here too.
Yeah, I can see them really well.
Oh, I like the way you painted them. Good job, you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
So the hope was to be able to make a tool that we can use for our upcoming units. We had just started multiplication. We were just getting into area. So something like this we can use to kind of map out, figure out how to multiply, use it to find area. And then we got to experience real world math. We got to go up to construction trades where they're building sheds. So they had, Adeline talked about a little math challenge they had on our last day. They played some games called Conquer the Area with the high schoolers where they competed against each other to see who could cover the most area on their boards. And then I challenged them to figure out if they needed to lay carpet on the floor of the sheds that they were already working on. How much would we need to buy? How many square feet would we need? And then they got to actually do that and solve. So the ways we can use these, it just keeps going. We also practiced writing an essay on our opinions on why everyone should have a chance to do this and go to the high school. So it was a super fun project, and I'm very grateful for CRTC for letting us kind of jump in and steal some of their time. So I have a quick video so that you can see it in action. Hopefully this will work. We'll do our best, and then we'll let the high school share.
No pressure. It's gonna work great.
Well, I know how this goes.
So do we. See? Perfect. That's awesome, guys.
So I just want to take a quick minute to follow up with that. So Mrs. Perkins reached out to me, and I thought it was a great idea. She had a lot of information, knew exactly, what she had in mind, and I thought it was a great idea. But high school students, sometimes adults think it's a great idea, so I wanted to see how it would go over. But my group was really receptive to it. They seemed really excited about it. And so Brett here, he's a year 2, so it happened during his class time. But Logan, he's a year 1 student, and I knew having 20 students come in, I didn't have quite that many, so I was going to need a little extra help. And I asked for volunteers, and Logan jumped right on it. So I just want to ask them real quick, tell us about your favorite part and how the experience was for you.
Yeah, the experience was great. My favorite part was probably working with the kids and learning some of the names. Also had a lot of fun building the geoboards with them and teaching them how to use hammers and power tools and all that was really great.
I'd probably have to say one of my favorite parts is it was a group project, so I didn't have to put in all 144 nails for everybody. That was very helpful, and it was fun just watching the boards get built step by step, and at the end we all get to use them, so that was cool.
So, and I think the third graders did a great job telling exactly what happened. Well done. I'll have to, check this out, the video, and show my kids next year. So I did survey my students and asked them, and I got all positive feedback. And I asked them if we should do this again next year, and I got a unanimous yes. I've even had some of my year 1 students, they noticed that the boards had disappeared, and they knew it was on my whiteboard that the year 2s were going to be finishing up the project, and they said, hey, when are we going to get our turn? So, yeah, so very positive. I really enjoyed it. So did my students. So thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to us.
The very last thing that I would like to say is I can talk to them all day about what to do with math and stuff, but if you really want them to listen, put a high school student in front of them that they think are rock stars, and so they will do whatever their celebrity status. They even signed the back. We had a full autograph session when we were finished. They have autographs and signatures on the back of their boards, and I'm sure they won't forget. So thank you.
Thank you. Before you all walk away, does anyone on the board have any questions? Ms. Hastings.
I'd just like to say thank you to all of you for showing us what it looks like to collaborate and work together for a really good purpose. So thank you.
Yeah.
And the importance of creativity of the educators, so thank you.
Yeah, really innovative.
Okay.
I'll ask a question.
So I'll ask a question. What math problem do these boards most help you solve?
Finding the area of rectangles and squares.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Ms. Campbell.
So, is there anything that you did that you were really proud of yourself about? You're like, oh my gosh, I did that. Like, what's something you're really proud about?
I drilled some holes.
That's awesome.
I hammered in some nails.
So good.
I used paint.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Oh my God, what stars. Total rock stars. That's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
We love you, Sienna.
Seems like they're emulating their principal out here. Yeah, there you go. Right.
Thank you.
Oh, that was so great. Love that. Yeah.
Next, we're on to reports. Van, it looks like you're all by yourself this evening. For our student report.
Good afternoon, everybody. This month at Concord High School is already looking to be a busy one with the storm coming in and SATs getting moved to today and tomorrow. And we get April break at the end of the month, though, so not too bad. Last week, we had our second lockdown drill during our passing period from first block to advisory. Last month, we also started spring sports, and many teams have already had scrimmages and are having their first games this month. We also have started our junior seminars for students each week during our win block, and we just had CHS and RMS had jazz band, chamber choir, and chamber orchestra concerts last Monday. Last week, around 10 other students and I got to attend the New Hampshire Youth Voice Summit for the MICVA Challenge at St. A's New Hampshire Institute for Politics. One Concord High student who was in the education group made a great point that I found many others agreed with when I asked people, and it was how schools are preparing us for the future, specifically with financial literacy. They made the point that they think there should be at least one required financial literacy class for all students to take in high school. And the group also said that they think there should be more classes that increased engagement for students. Like we have our sports stats class and CRTC English, which are like just geared to make people want to be intrigued in the class so that they want to do their work. And some of the other topics that people had were mental health, healthcare, environment, housing, bullying, and financial insecurity. And then 2 weekends ago, Concord High had 23 students attend the HOSA State Leadership Conference for health science programs across the state, with 170 attendees in total. We had 19 students qualify for the International Leadership Conference in Houston this July. And this month, we also have our report from Abbott Downing. So, ADS Choose Love theme, forgiveness. This month, ADS has rolled out the theme of forgiveness. Our kickoff was featured by a forgiveness video created by 4 fifth grade students who developed a message on how to practice forgiveness. This video was shared with each class at the beginning of the month. They also had an author visit. As part of our forgiveness kickoff, we had Brandy May, author of both The Fearful Freddy Froggy and Busy the Very Busy Bee, meet with each grade to share her books and reinforce the message of forgiveness. And then the Bicycle Project. We also had the arrival of our Bicycle Project for the kindergarten and first grade Learn to Ride program. Most of the equipment has arrived, and Mr. Casey, Abbott Downing's PE teacher, has started introducing the bikes to class. Then they had their dictionary project. So we brought back the dictionary project for our third graders. Our third graders received their dictionaries and a presentation a couple weeks ago. Over the course of the next few weeks, all third graders across the district will receive a dictionary. Thank you to Abbott Downing's PTO, Pure Indulgence Day Spa, as well as the Belleville and Liberty families for their donations to make this project possible. For additional information about our school project events, check out the Abbott Downing School Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Any questions for Van? All right. Superintendent.
Great, thank
Your
you.
report.
Thank you. I'm going to start right off with our lead testing update. You know that we are now in the third phase of lead testing. This has all been dictated by legislated law that requires that we do 3 levels of testing. And so I asked Matt to give us a brief update because we are at the third phase of this project and we have to be done by June 24th. So we're trying to finish up.
That's right. So over February vacation, we tested all the elementary schools. We had a very small handful of locations that had 5 parts per billion, which is the limit or above. So when we have that, we have a couple of options. Some we repurpose a faucet into hand wash only. We also take it immediately out of service while we go through the phase of retesting, which we've done. And we're any day now we should be getting the retests of the very small handful that came back at 5 parts per billion or above. So we're focusing on doing the middle school and the high school over the April vacation, and we're hoping and expecting for the same type of results.
Questions? Mr. Cotton.
Matt, can you tell us which schools tested over, or was it
Sure.
across the board?
Across the board, Abbott Downing had 1 faucet that we're in the process of repurposing. Millbrook had 3. Broken Ground had 0. Crystal McAuliffe had 1. And at Beaver Meadow, we had 15. And 13 of those 15 we repurposed into hand wash only. So the remainder we're doing our retesting on.
Okay, thank you.
Can you give us, how many sites did you test, the total?
So this is round 3, so we tested all 5 elementary schools. So part of round 3's testing is also going to include the high school and the middle school.
Yeah, I'm just
We're gonna do
out of
those.
these that tested positive, sort of what's the denominator? 13.
About 20. About 20 that I listed today.
Matt, how many
What did I miss?
faucets, water sources were tested total?
In this round? Approximately.
About 250 or so.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Are they the same locations that have tested positive in previous rounds, or are they different locations?
They're different locations. But again, the number was extremely small. So, I mean, you can get lead if it can start to build up if water sits in a line for a while and it's unused. So we suspect that could have been the case on this round.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay.
We are looking at some possibilities of recouping some of the financial loss. I mean, think about the amount of replacement faucets and water sources that Matt's had to do, along with some filtering systems. So we're putting all of our costs together so that we can recoup some of that from a program that the state is offering. So we'll get back to you when we finish this up. May I continue?
Yep.
So I just wanted to update the board on the Broken Ground principal search. As you know, it started last week, and we had over 30 applicants for the position. I was quite pleased that we had as many applicants as we did. As you know, administrative pools can tend to be shallow, but we had a great response. They did a screening. They screened candidates and interviewed last week 8 candidates. The team is made up of a board member. Ms. Campbell is on it, along with teachers and administrators and parents. So they all completed that. And then this week, we'll have a second round of interviews for candidates. And then, as Van mentioned, due to some inclement weather that is on the horizon, we're going to postpone our visit to Broken Ground and visit with the teachers and the parents to the week after next, so that we don't have to worry about weather and people traveling and all that. So that's pretty much where we're at right now, and we hope to be able to have a candidate to you, because as you know, we have some assistant principal positions to also fill, and so that's important that we hire the principal so that we can move forward with that process. Questions on that? Jess was in first round. Any thoughts?
I was so impressed with the caliber of talent that has applied for this. This is a very tough decision. We've had fantastic applicants. And the team from Broken Ground and Kim are just an absolute pleasure to work with. This has been a great experience. Every candidate has expressed how badly they want to work in our district, especially Broken Ground. It was wonderful hearing all the great things these applicants said about Concord. So really proud moment.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy, could you just expand on what parents and teachers, they'll be able to meet the candidates? What's your plan for that?
Oh, right. So we would like to bring candidate back to the building, have a tour of the building, have a chance to just, walk the building, obviously see youngsters in their class engaged in learning. And then once school is let out, we'll have an opportunity for parents and for, I feel like I lost my notes there.
Oh, you're good.
We'll have an opportunity for parents and teachers then to meet candidate and also ask questions, and just an open session. We've done that. We did that at the high school when we filled that position for the high school principal, and I thought it worked out very well. We also have a little follow-up survey, so when people leave, they can make their comments, and so we'll have that also available so that the committee can then look at the results of the comments from teachers and from parents.
Thank you.
Kim has sort of led that up, and I really appreciated her leadership on this. She did a great job, and also the staff from Broken Ground that was involved. Did I miss anything?
We have one ed assistant.
That's right. I forgot we had an ed assistant also on the interview team.
Nice.
We good?
Okay, yeah.
Good. Okay. I'm going to continue to E, which is the last day of school. I had it all in my head planned for tonight, right? Exactly what was going to happen until
How New Hampshire.
I looked at the weather, and the weather does not look promising, but it's changing from this morning to this afternoon. It changed. So tentatively, and I say tentatively because when I say that, the last day that I'm recommending, if we don't have any snow days, is June 12th. That's a Wednesday. And that fulfills our responsibility of meeting at least 990 hours in our middle high school and also 945 in our elementary schools, and which represents 177 days of instruction. And so if we have a snow day, then I will move it to the 13th so that we fulfill the obligation of 177 and the hours that I think students richly deserve. And, I hear sometimes, what's the last week of school? Every day is important for children to be with their teachers, and I am totally committed to that. I think, even if it's just having some games and some fun, maybe it's just cleaning their desks. Whatever the activities are that teachers have in that last day, it's important. And I know that in my experiences, there's some youngsters that don't want to go home. They like school. They like the fact that they have the teacher there and their friends and their breakfast and lunch. So it's more than just saying, oh, they're in school for a day that doesn't mean anything, because it does. Every minute, every second we're with the kids is important. So
I assume you'll be asking for a vote.
I would like a vote
Is it
on,
okay if everyone good if we do that as item
so you can have some input
Yes.
at public comment. Yep,
10A?
I didn't put that in, so that would be great. So the last item on my agenda is just an update on the solar eclipse. I'm sure everyone is aware that this event is happening. New Hampshire is in a fairly good place to be able to see quite a bit of it, at least in the high 90% of it. But knowing that we wanted to be, we wanted to decide on safety for the kids and making sure that they weren't outside on buses, or we weren't in the middle of dismissal, because as you know, the eclipse is from 2:30 to about 4:30, give or take, okay? And every time you read something, it's a little different. And so I've suggested, and you agreed, that we dismiss our elementary youngsters at 12:30. That gives them plenty of time to get home. Buses, pickup, walkers, before the event occurs. We'll follow that up with our high school at 12:45, 15 minutes later. You know that some of the buses are the same buses, so our high school kids have that option. And again, we have drivers. We don't know what traffic's going to be like, so we wanted to get them out. Again, both of those levels, elementary and high school, are dismissed around 2:30, 20 minutes to 3, so they would be in the beginning of the eclipse. And our middle schoolers, who normally get out at 3:30, we'll let them out at 1:30. That'll give us plenty of time to get them home on buses. Kim has secured, they came to our office. We have in excess of 4,000 protective safety glasses for everyone, so we have enough for students as well as staff. And so everyone, that has been distributed so that we'll have those protected. And by the way, they were approved. We had word that some of the purchased safety lenses were not approved by whoever approves those lenses, but ours were all okay, so they'll be good for the students and for our staff. Kim has been great about sending out resources to our teachers so that they can do some activities with YouTube film and activities that our teachers can do in the classroom. It's a special event and one that is significant. So we wanted to make sure that it was also a learning experience, not just a couple of hours getting out of school. I also, just so you know, I know you're always worried about the after-school programs, so I notified the Boys and Girls Club, the Y, and 21C, so they're all on board. They know what we're doing, so that we make sure that our youngsters are okay for the afternoon, okay? We've sent notices out to parents. We'll do another reminder, though.
Thank you. All right.
So just a couple of things. I can never leave without sharing some things. But I wanted you to know that Concord sent 2 teams to Destination Imagination. And our 2 teams won first place. The Mustang Bandits are a middle school level. Mustang Bandits, wouldn't you know they'd name themselves that? Are a middle school team level and have been around for 6 years. And the Master Crafters are an elementary level team returning for their 2nd year. Both teams competed in the Northern Regional Tournament. They both took first place, and they will be now in the state tournament that's going to take place April 6th in Goffstown. I wanted to let you know that. I thought that was pretty neat. The second, what I think is a great celebration is, I know you're all aware that we have a ropes course, and our high school students participate in outdoor activities. But they do more than that. They are real supportives of communities. And this week, they worked with the town of Chichester to do trail improvement. And so they completed about 120 linear feet of boardwalk in the Valley View Trail, which helps public access through a very muddy, mucky marsh, as they said. So they, in all told, they completed over 60 hours of volunteer labor on the project on Saturday. And so my hat off to Frank Harrison, who's the teacher of our ropes course, and of course our students who take and give up their Saturdays to be community helpers. And you know, these are trails that anybody can access. So kudos to them. I just wanted to share that with you.
Nice, thank you.
That's it.
All right.
Unless there's a question.
Any questions for the superintendent? The next item on the agenda is Champions for Children. So we'll turn it back to the superintendent.
So I'm going to just get myself out of my seat here and go up back. Okay, so, Mr. Herbert, would you like to start?
All right, good evening. Most of you know me. I'm Tim Herbert, principal at Concord High School. Tonight I have the honor of recognizing a longtime Concord educator and someone who continues to stay involved with the Concord community, both in a public way as well as behind the scenes. And he himself reached out to me and was like, really, do I have to do this recognition? I'm like, yes, we're going to recognize you. You don't get the choice in whether or not we recognize you, we do. So Steve Potozak, if you could stand up. Come on here. So Steve Potozak has been a champion for children his entire adult life. In his career as an educator, Steve has served Concord students as a teacher, coach, and school administrator. Steve has also served as a school administrator in neighboring districts. Currently, in his retirement, Steve serves Concord student athletes in various capacities for Concord Athletic Department. Steve is a huge asset to the student athletes. He serves as a primary clock operator for all football and basketball events. His experience and expertise are crucial to the smooth operation of these events. Steve also is the primary voice of Concord Athletics, serving as master of ceremonies for Concord basketball, Concord baseball, as well as hockey. He coordinates the senior nights, which if any of you have been to any of those events, it's quite an event for our seniors. They really get the honor they deserve. And other special events for our athletics. At Everett Ice Arena, he is known across the state for his playlist and soundtracks, and for his professional and creative approach on the microphone. He often shows up early, but it's not early just to get ready for the game. He shows up early to banter and converse with the students and as well as the coaches. And I, for one, have benefited from this banter. Going into stressful games, competitive situations, it has a very calming effect and a way of saying, just keep your head up, give it your best shot, and at the end of the night, the puck lands where the puck lands. All right. He has a way of keeping things light, which helps keeps our athletes loose in stressful moments. The Concord student athlete experience is made better by Steve's professionalism and dedication. In addition to this, and I will speak about it briefly because he does not want recognition again. In addition to his support for our athletes, Steve, behind the scenes, organizes for families in need around stressful times of the year the resources they need. He does it in a very discreet way and never looks for the recognition, so he's really upset I'm doing this right now. But I think it would be remiss to not share this with you because this just shows you the entire character of who Steve Potozak is. It is because of this and more that I'm proud to recognize Steve Potozak as this year's CHS Champions for Children.
J. Richard Middle School principal, and Caitlin's with me. Just going to read real quick what I wrote. it is a privilege to recognize Caitlin Sackman as a Concord champion for children. Caitlin has made a profound difference for our students in our school community. Caitlin revived our PTO and has a student-first mindset. Caitlin's level of support and dedication to our staff and students is remarkable as PTO president. Here are several examples from this year. Securing funding for 2 whole school assemblies, one for science and another for student culture and climate. That's supposed to be this week on bullying. Engaging and securing support from Home Depot to revitalize the RMS staff break room. Caitlin provided significant planning, design, and effort to create a beautiful space for all RMS staff. Further, she provided new furniture for the space. Organizing several staff appreciation events, coffee and cocoa, luncheons, and special treats. Caitlin has invited and brought in district-level leaders to provide access for RMS parents at all PTO meetings this year. DEIJ Coordinator Quincy Worthy and Assistant Superintendent Kim Yarlart are 2 examples. Caitlin has organized and provided PTO-sponsored activities for our students outside of the school day. Everett Arena Skate Night, Altitude Fun Night, and Caitlin has also organized student snacks and parent volunteers for our school dances. We have one this Friday. As a new principal to our capital, Caitlin has been invaluable to me as a first-year principal. Nights, weekends, Caitlin is there for me to make a difference for our students. Caitlin, thank you for all you do for our staff and students. Thank you for all you've done and continue to do for me as principal at RMS. I am forever grateful.
Susan Losey from Broken Ground. These are for you. It's my pleasure to introduce the Broken Ground School Champion for Children for 2024, Margaret Landsman. Margaret's amazing. She's supported the Broken Ground students in the 21st Century program 3 afternoons a week for 3 years. Her dedication to the students has been outstanding, helping the program to provide engaging school programs even when the times have been when we have not been able to get paid staffing, and it's been challenging. Margaret has provided consistency, caring, and enthusiasm. This year, she's led the Monologue Club, supported the Pen Pal group, which writes weekly letters to seniors living at Havenwood Heritage Heights community, and also co-led the Debate Club. Asking the students to tell me about how Miss Margaret has helped them at 21C, they started by saying, "How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?" Now, what in the world does that tongue twister have to do with Mrs. Landsman, you ask? Students described the Monologue Club, where they worked on improving their speaking skills by practicing tongue twisters and learning how to vary their volume and memorizing famous speeches. The boys I spoke to in the Monologue Club learned Shakespeare's "to be or not to be," that is the question speech from Hamlet. Students shared how proud they felt after practicing this speech, committing it to memory, and using the tips that Miss Margaret had given them, and then videotaping their speeches. They expressed such delight and a sense of accomplishment when the videos were presented to all the students attending 21C. They highlighted that Miss Margaret gave them great tips, that word kept coming up, for their speaking, as well as helping them to learn how to stretch out words to improve their spelling when they were writing to their pen pals, and how to use various greetings and endings when writing letters. As teachers will tell you, it is not always easy to give students feedback that will inspire them to revise their writing. But Miss Margaret has that special touch of knowing just how to provide encouragement and praise while offering very specific suggestions in a way that prompts the students to revise their work. Margaret's generous not only with her time, but also offering resources and supplies for the many special events at 21C. Her legacy is inspiring our children to develop their voice and communication skills. Her presence, her spirit, and genuine caring for others are evident in all she does and have made her a true champion for children in our community. On behalf of everyone at Broken Ground School, we thank you for your service and dedication to our students.
Anthony Blinn, principal of the Abbott Downing School, and I'm here to introduce you to Scott Mason, Abbott Downing's champion for children. He too does not want to be up here either. A lot of similarities. Scott Mason is an Abbott Downing parent and volunteer. Scott has been part of the ADS community for a number of years, and his youngest child is now in 2nd grade. Scott has been active volunteer with the ski program, the family dance, field day, field trips, coaching sports, and most notably, Popcorn Fridays. And what are Popcorn Fridays? Scott, along with various volunteers, help make popcorn, bag it up for the staff and students. Each Friday, they're able to purchase a bag or two. In the 7 years he's been doing this, so I did a few numbers for you, because we were talking about this last week. So he arrives at about 6 o'clock every Friday, right there with probably the head custodian, and Donna in the kitchen. Leaves about 9:30, about 3.5 hours every morning. About that. On average, that's about 120 hours of volunteerism every year. And if you calculate that over 7 years, he's up almost 900 hours just in popcorn, coupled with all the other things he does for our school. So then we talk about the popcorn itself, and I almost brought you a bag tonight, but I thought you were take a break from popcorn tonight. Each Friday, there are approximately 500 bags of popcorn popped, which equates to 17,000 bags a year, and over 120,000 during his course of his 7 years at Abbott Downing. And what's important about that bag of popcorn is the amount of interactions he's able to have with students. And so if you think about all those numbers I just gave you and the amount of times he's able to interact with students is its favorite part of his job. Again, this is just for Popcorn Fridays. Add in Scott's other volunteer opportunities, and you can see his commitment to kids. Spend a few minutes with Scott, and you'll quickly learn this is not about recognition. It's about connecting with kids and trying to make a difference. He enjoys when he can have the kids come back and visit prior years of volunteering. On behalf of the Abbott Downing School community, we want to sincerely thank and recognize Scott Mason as our champions for children. You've dedicated so much of your time to our school community. Thank you.
Mrs. Vance, you want to step up?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle Vance, the proud principal at Beaver Meadow School, and tonight, with great pleasure, I nominate Lori Fink as Beaver Meadow School's 2024 Champion for Children. Her tireless efforts have truly made a difference and have inspired others to get involved. Lori is one of those invisible pillars of our school community. She quietly volunteers for our PTO events, and she comes in to help every time or any time with projects, whether they are big or small, without hesitation. She is one of the most dependable volunteers and is always willing and able to jump in and help. She is very humble. And sticking with that theme tonight, this is not her favorite spot to be, and I know that. So therefore, my next line actually says, and I want to thank her and her son Lucian and her husband for being here tonight to be recognized. Beaver Meadow School is a beautiful neighborhood school. Our community has embraced and carried on numerous traditions each and every school year. These traditions cannot become part of our history without the commitment of our volunteers and our staff. Lori's commitment to our school in the following different ways continues our traditions and provides our students with lifelong memories that they will cherish. Some examples to showcase how she is deserving of this recognition include supporting our Concord dental program by delivering our students back and forth from their appointments and always making sure that they get there. At our annual community cleanup event, she and Lucian are always the first to arrive and the last to leave, making sure all the weeding is completed and all the planting has been accomplished. She volunteers for our fall and our spring book fairs. Our very first car wash. Not one car went through without Lori helping to wash it. Picture days, dances, our color runs, our walkathons, spaghetti dinners, and even coming to make sure that all of our event flyers are delivered to each and every single classroom. She promotes inclusion, love for learning, and teamwork. While volunteering, she provides patience and kindness towards all of our students. She always attends our PTO meetings, and she is a strong, very strong advocate for our students and our staff. For all of us that are lucky enough to know and work alongside her, we know that she is irreplaceable, and we appreciate her from the bottom of our hearts. And many of my board members are here tonight, by the way. Lori Fink is most deserving of this recognition. On behalf of Beaver Meadow School, it's my honor, Lori, to say thank you for and recognizing you as our 2024 Beaver Meadow Schools Champion for Children.
Our two administrators over at Millbrook, wouldn't you know, both of them had commitments tonight, but they sent their reliable worker at the school, Jen Finley, to do the awards tonight. So Jen's here to take over for the two administrators. That'll teach them, Jen, to leave us. Come on, Marge. We gotta come up here. Gotta get up. I'm all right. You okay? Yeah. All right.
Thank you. So, unfortunately, Katie Scarpati couldn't be here today, but it is my honor and privilege to read her written words for you. And I've gotten to know you very well over the last 10 years. So, on behalf of Katie Scarpati, it is my pleasure to introduce Marjorie Patton as the Millbrook School 2024 Champion for Children. Marjorie's dedication to the well-being and comfort of the children at Millbrook School is truly inspiring, and it's a privilege to recognize her outstanding contributions to our community. As a longtime East Concord community member, Marjorie has exemplified kindness and generosity in countless ways. Over the past 10 years, her commitment to hand knitting thousands of hats and mittens for the students of Millbrook School has not only kept them warm and cozy during the colder months, but has also touched their hearts and the hearts of the families and educators in our area. Marjorie's selflessness and tireless efforts to ensure that every child feels cared for and protected is truly commendable. Marjorie's work goes beyond providing physical warmth. It embodies the warmth of compassion and community spirit. Her dedication to making a positive difference in the lives of the children reflects her deep-rooted values and her genuine concern for the well-being of others. On behalf of the entire community, I want to express our gratitude for Marjorie's unwavering commitment and generosity. Her actions inspire us all to be more caring and compassionate individuals, and her impact on the lives of the children at Millbrook School will be remembered for years to come. Once again, congratulations on the well-deserved recognition, Marjorie, as the Millbrook Schools 2024 Champion for Children. Your legacy and kindness and generosity will continue to brighten our community for generations. I know.
That's okay.
See, I call it Mars.
That's okay.
And that's your copy of our letter.
Well, thank you. There you go. Thank you.
Well, our last principal started the night off celebrating, so I suppose we'll bring her up and we'll close out celebrations with Mrs. Gallo. So, Chris, would you? You need a microphone.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. You sure? Okay. Denise Hepburn is the wonderful mom of Krista McAuliffe School's first grade teacher, Heather Hepburn, in the orange back there. Everyone wave to her. CMS has been fortunate to benefit from Denise's Friday visits for the last 4 school years, minus little time during COVID. I personally have loved visiting with her to chat about students and about her daughter as well. Denise's teaching career spanned a total of 43 years. She taught children in kindergarten through grade 8, but spent the majority of her career in 2nd and 3rd grades. When Denise was a child, her mom, Margaret, used to volunteer in her classroom every Friday. It was a wonderful experience for both of them. So when Denise retired, she decided to carry on the tradition in Heather's classroom of first graders. When Heather's students arrived to their classroom on Fridays, they excitedly enter the room and go straight over to Denise to say good morning and to give her hugs. If there is ever a Friday that she isn't there, the students are disappointed and quickly ask where she is, especially because she might be running an errand for Heather, and the students have been clear that her daughter should be doing favors for her and not the other way around. Former students of Heather, who are now in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades, will stop Heather in the hallway and inquire, "It's Friday, is Mrs. Hepburn here?" Later in the day, many of those students will visit the classroom hoping to see Denise for a fun check-in, a snuggle, and a chat about every life detail they can possibly think of since the last time they saw her. Denise truly looks forward to coming in every Friday and participating in a variety of activities throughout the school day. She works one-on-one with students on differentiated enrichment, and she supports students with practice activities. She meets with every reading group during literacy rotations. Students play games with her, complete comprehension activities, and tackle writing tasks. Denise also helps students get caught up on their work from that week if they were absent. Students are always very eager for their rotation with Denise. In addition to the amount of work they accomplish together, their time with her is the perfect opportunity to ask her lots of personal questions and tell her a million stories about their own lives. We've come to discover that school without Denise would just not feel right. In fact, during Read Across America Week, Heather invited different guest readers into her classroom each day. But on Denise's day, students were confused and asked, "Well, who's our guest reader going to be today?" I, too, get disappointed when Denise is not able to volunteer. It makes me smile to watch her observing her daughter with such pride in her eyes. Volunteering is in this family's blood, and CMS is a better place because of it. I am grateful to witness the beautiful memories being created each week between our students, Heather, and her mom, Denise. They will be cherished forever. Thank you, Mama Hep, for sharing your retired life with us and for being our champion for children.
You've done for the night.
Thank you to all our champions for children, and just it's a good reminder of the countless volunteer hours that help make our schools work and help our children grow. And with that, I'll take a 5-minute recess so that we can let people who don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting head out. If you are here for public comment, there is a sign-in sheet. If you can sign in during the break, that would be great. 5 minutes.
wish I had done
Okay.
Great. Great. We can just get going. They'll quiet
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
All right, I was waiting for the superintendent.
Oh, right on.
The next item on the agenda is middle school project update. Superintendent, do you want to start? Well, okay, well, quiet down and we'll. We're starting with the middle school project update. Is it on?
Check with him.
Is he back on?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, he'll
Where
turn
can you
him
hear
on. He'll turn him up.
Oh, I hear it.
Yeah.
I can hear it. So. Well, just a quick update. You know, we've had 2 meetings of committee meetings. One was the building committee, and I think there's notes in your packet relative to that, as well as a program committee meeting. So we have we have folks in the community engaged in these meetings. We have staff as well as our architects who are present, and we've had some great discussions and really trying to, especially on the program committee, focusing on issues such as the gymnasium, the auditorium, all of the support rooms for support services for kids, as well as the fields out and around. So we've had some great discussions. Nothing has been finalized yet, so there's still working. We have program committee has another meeting on April 18th, and so we anticipate we'll continue to work towards. We need to get some information to our architects with some decisions around those big items that I just mentioned, so that we have a price for June. That was our goal. I think you all recall that they wanted to be able to have pricing for the middle school project. We also, and I was going to let Matt talk about the construction management. As you know, we put an RFP out on the street. We had a number of folks send in interest and inquiries, and Matt kind of took over and took charge of that.
So we had 5 firms that originally showed interest, and 3 firms submitted quotes, or bids, I should say. So we're looking to review those with the committee this coming Thursday night. And also, we have some other updates at that building committee meeting where we're going to be giving the group an update on the programming that Kathleen just spoke about as well. So.
One other committee that will get started, we'll be notifying those folks in the morning, and that's the Sustainability Committee. And so that group will be looking at items like the HVAC systems, the geotherm, perhaps the solar panels. All of that will be looked at by that committee, and what's the right direction in terms of the needs of the school. Those are big items when you think about heating systems and cooling systems, and we've been so fortunate when you think about your elementary schools. Some people refer to them as new, but they are about 10 or 12 years old now, but they have dehumidification systems which have really done very well for students and staff when we have those warm days in September as well as in June. So that's another piece of our work that we want to do with this Sustainability Committee. So it kind of gives you a quick update of where we're at, and as you know, we finished, we should get a report this week. We did surveying out on the property, so we have an idea of all the boundaries, and that's really important. You don't want to be crossing boundaries, and you want to have a clear understanding about what that land looks like and where it is. So I actually had a chance to walk out there and to see all the areas that were flagged, so that we had a good sense of the property, and that will continue. We have meetings coming up with the city to talk about all of the infrastructure like water, sewer, that we'll be working with them, and they've been great. They meet with us and sort of give us ideas and what their position is on some of those big projects. We'll keep you posted on that. It's really working kind of things.
And I just want to thank Concord TV. They don't have the capacity to cover all of the working groups for the building committee, but they're covering the main ones, and they helped us record the programming committee last week, which had some really important discussions about support services, space, and layout. So thank them for that. Questions?
Do we want to add the new athletic director to the programming when we start talking about field, or just have him come?
Yeah,
to
I think
one
that
if
would,
he's
that, no,
available?
that's great. And it's interesting that you bring that up, and we failed to mention it tonight, but he was engaged in the project in Goffstown, and as you know, Goffstown put a new field in. I believe it's a turf field in Goffstown.
It was a donation.
Yeah, well,
They didn't have to fundraise.
they fundraised, is that what you're
No,
saying?
it was donated.
Well, but I guess how it was achieved financially was more about Steve's involvement in the development and the design of the field. I didn't realize where the money came from. I'm sure that somebody in the city will step up and make some donations to help us out. So,
No, he was involved in all the planning of that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he would be a logical person on this committee.
it's a great point, and I'll make sure I mention that to Steve, Brenda.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Great. Thank you. General assurances?
Yeah, so in your packet tonight, you have a very lengthy document that we call general assurances, and we do this every year. I have to review them. Your board president, as you can see on the bottom of each page, is her signature. She has one more page to sign tonight before she leaves. After we vote, we take a vote on this, but this is the promise that the district has around all the rules and regulations to accept all of our grants, all of our federal grants, and it starts with our Title I, Title II, Title III, Perkins Grant, Title IV, and then, of course, any other grants that come our way, that we assure the state that we follow these regulations. And so Ellen is here. Speaking of Ellen, what did I forget? Go ahead.
No, that's great. That's great. I was told I don't get more than 5 minutes, so I'm just here really to answer any questions that you have. Doesn't have to be tonight either. Hoping that you have reviewed this, especially if you're new to the board or haven't seen this document before. There are really only 2 changes to this, 2 additions to the document. However, our practices have not changed. So one of them is the Build America, Buy America preference. That language is now in the document. We had added that to our policy 2 years ago when I arrived, so no difference on that. We've been showing a preference for American-made products long before the feds required it in here. And then there's also a note, number 19, on the Pro-Children Act of 2001. Again, this is a formality that the state has then put in here. We have Policy 753 already that governs this, and that essentially is ensuring that students are in a tobacco-free, drug-free environment. But those are really the only big changes. So I would just ask that the board, I guess, request a motion, right?
We do need a motion on it.
To allow Ms. Walsh to sign on your behalf.
I will make the motion to allow Ms. Walsh to go ahead and sign on our behalf. I must say that reading these 22 pages was scintillating.
Yes, the federal government has a lot of great things to say.
And I just want to thank you for actually doing this.
Sure.
It's invaluable.
I don't mind being the rule follower in this way. So.
Mr. Cotton has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Boucher. I think it requires my firstborn somewhere in here. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Mr. Dunn is not with us this evening?
No, he's not with us this evening. Is there anything we put in all the financials in your packet?
You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Ellen.
we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so is there any particular questions? If you look at your financials, you'll see we have talked about this probably every month for the last several months. And obviously, transportation is a big issue, and it's the commitment that we have for all of our youngsters that we transport, whether they're in district or out of district. Also, the arrangements that we have for youngsters that are homeless because of the McKinney-Vento law that, allows, provides for them and their families and where they live and transporting to their school of origin. So we have, and I think we talked during budget season. I hope that it's a discussion once we get through budget and we're on our way, we would take a look at looking at our budget in terms of transportation. We have to do something. It seems to be out of control. And, when you need to transport a youngster to a particular placement, you don't have any choice in the matter. I mean, it's not like you can say, well, they'll have to figure it out themselves. That can't happen. So it's all part of the individual education plan. And it has put and by the way, you are not the only school district in the state to be faced with this. School district after school district has been faced with this. And so that is one. The other one that you'll see is some of the consulting services that we have been provided, particularly by some of our services. John, can you kind of share some of the additional services that have caused our lines to go up, like the Bill White and so forth, when you've hired extra?
Well, I think this year in some of this balances too, we've talked about some of the hiring practices we've had, especially with our educational supports. We've been a lot of openings, and we've had that throughout the year. So sometimes I have, obligations of IEPs that we have to maintain, and we go to outside vendors to be able to maintain those. That's been a service, I think, this year that's gone up. And I think that, we're hoping in the next year to continue to hire and not have to have that service.
Any further questions? Ms. Hastings?
On page 80, rentals. We seem to be.
Which
what are
line?
We renting?
Which line?
5191.
Mr. Dunn talked about that during our budget process. That's where we rent our schools. And normally we budget higher in a presidential primary year because they get a lot more business.
Okay.
But this was a relatively slow presidential primary,
So it's not that we've expended that much.
No,
it's
this
that
is
we didn't bring
revenue.
in that
We
much.
didn't bring in that much,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
It's a good question. I'm glad you asked it.
Further questions? All right. Thank you, Superintendent.
Great.
Next, we have public comment period. We have about 16 people signed up. So would someone care to make a motion to extend our public comment period from 30 to 45 minutes, and we could allow everyone about 3 minutes to speak?
So moved. Oh, sorry.
So moved by Ms. Hastings. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meeker. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. With that, I have the list of those who have signed up. I'd ask you to keep yourself to about 3 minutes. Mr. Richards will sort of give you a wave at 2.5 minutes, and I'll cut you off as politely as I can at 3. And if you could follow our rules for public comment, which are, essentially to be courteous, we'd appreciate it. And we will start with Mr. Sargent.
My name is Carl Sargent. I'm a landscape consultant, landscape designer, and I want to bring up some statistics on the average income in Concord wages is $55,000, and the Nashua, it's $84,000. They're spending right now $81 million to build a middle school that's going to be bigger than the proposed middle school. According to that, we could build 2 new schools, repair the existing school for $6 million, and we could party like hell with the rest of the millions of dollars. Now let's look at Amherst. Amherst's average income is $294,000, and they turned down a $83 million renovation of the middle school. How that 55 versus 294? In Woodstock, Vermont, average wage is $139, and it was proposed for a middle school, high school, and it was turned down, and that's that. Now let's take a look at you represent all the people of the Concord School District. The thing is, if you pass this kind of a budget, you're gonna have to face the people who are gonna be thrown out on the streets. And that's gonna be not a few hundred, it's gonna be several hundred at least. You need to talk with the city police and what problems that come up on that. And we're now cutting 3 teachers and 1 vacancy on the east side of the river. Over there, you have most of your immigrants, many of them speak at least 3 languages. They need more help there than they do on this side of the teacher, that. And a teacher's income here in Concord starting is less than 41,000. When you take, that's gonna be a little rough to take and pay for living in Concord when the average is 71,000 for an average middle class house in that. So, you need to really think very hard on this, I think. And I went to the old Parker. That's a picture of it. That was a real true dump. And we got a great education except in English, and we were an experiment for Columbia College. And other than that, if you avoided a few teachers, we got an excellent education here. Is there any questions I can answer?
No, thank you, Mr. Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Sargent.
Ms. Hoadley? I'm going to double check. Mr. Jewell is not here. It looks like he crossed himself off.
Yeah, he would have to leave.
Okay. Ms. Hoadley?
My name is Betty Hoadley. I have been a taxpayer in Concord for 66 years. First of all, in case there's someone around who hasn't been in Concord for a year and a half, or they've had their head in the sand for a year and a half, I'd like to show how we got here and how 6 members of the Concord School Board in 23 lost the trust. First of all, let me comment about the budget just passed. Folks, you did a super job, an absolutely super job. You talked about tough issues, the school resource officer, eliminating classroom teachers. You took on very, very difficult things, and you came out with a number that was most acceptable. Congratulations and thank you. But your record with the middle school project isn't quite the same. When the purchase of the church property fell apart, you should have been puzzled about what was going on because the church property was in favor because it had the water and sewer services. Guess what? And Broken Ground didn't. Then when Broken Ground took first place, then you sort of just dismissed the water and sewer charges with Broken Ground. So which is it, people? Is it important that you have water and sewer, or is it not important? And I know it's expensive, and we haven't yet had the actual figures from the architects. Then later on, we had to consider the issue of the Y Alliance. How could you possibly have seriously considered that? They had no money. Not only did they have no money, they had the situation of being a security risk to the staff and students at the middle school, if indeed they were intertwined in some way. So I'm glad that that failed. So finally, we get to, recently. As early as October of this past year, there were board members who had already decided about whether it would be Broken Ground or rebuild Runlet at its present site. 2 months later, on December 6th, and after a week of public input. Incidentally, I was so distressed when I learned that the school board thought that there were only 3 wards that were showing up to testify, wards 5, 7, and 10. I'm from 2 or 3. I was there all the time. There was more out there than you thought, and to make an assumption like that was absolutely erroneous. And then we get to December 6th. I've nicknamed it the Day of Infamy. You can look up the meaning of infamy if you'd like. It might be just a little too harsh for here. So now we have the situation we're at one, okay, I'm almost there. Okay, here we are, we're in a bad situation. And what I'm saying to you, all of you around the table, but specifically to the 4 who are still here from December 6th, read your charter. See what's in it. There are going to be things in there that show what is possible, and they even show what might be probable. I didn't want to bring this up before. It looked like a threat. It's not a threat now. It's just reality.
Thank you, Ms. Hoadley. Ms. West.
Hello.
Hi. Nice to see you.
Hi. I'm Kate West, although I feel like I'm going to sound like Bernie Sanders saying, I am once again asking you to consider accessibility and to consider making sure that we're intentional about being inclusive when we're moving forward with the budget and when we're moving forward with the middle school project. Having been to the committee, the anti-racism committee, have seen a lot from the district in terms of plans to consider accessibility and inclusivity. And I have honestly been watching to see how we're moving forward. And it seems as though there is still a lack of intentional outreach and inclusion, particularly with the communities of people that have immigrated here, right? So when you're looking at how to make a space inclusive and you're trying to build a space that welcomes everyone, then everyone needs to be a part of the conversations of the project. And I haven't been seeing that. So I'm just here tonight to really ask everyone here to be intentional, because there's a difference between saying, our door's always open, you can always come and talk to us, and actually going out and inviting someone to participate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
Fisto?
Good evening. I don't know what time it was. Thank you so much for your time and staying up late. It's already 7, so I should get back home and eat.
Speak into the microphone a little more, please.
Nice and loud.
Can you all hear me now?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. I was saying that I should go back home and eat, but thank you for taking the time and hearing us. And I think it's important to consider the ideas and voices of the people. And I appreciate you taking this step to do so. I recently had a meeting with some young people from the community who told me stories about how they feel about the community. And this is a work that I'm involved in to ask young people the questions why, what they think about New Hampshire, what they think about Concord, what they think about their communities. And I'm trying to make sure that young people can invest in our community and access our community. And it's a big deal for me because I've considered staying here and to be able to give back to the community. So, and their stories really touched my heart, that I still stand with my opinion about education regarding diversity. And I think that we lack that. There's a lack of diversity in many different areas in Concord, including our school district. You know, when we talk about diversity, is it having people who's going to represent certain communities? Is it having education, you know, required to fill those gaps? Is it to have understanding about culture and to value people people's opinions, people's culture, people's background? Is it having to include everybody, making sure that our community is more accessible and people can be a part of everything? And that's what we need. We just need to be able to learn and understand why we still have disconnections in our community. And I haven't seen that. I think you're doing a great job, but not yet. We're somewhere yet. We're still down. So I am considering, and I want to be able to speak about this many times. Okay, 30 minutes, 30 seconds?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. The height is still very, very segregated, right? And we try to make the city connected to the heights to be able to make sure that those people can access the city, can be a part of everything, can learn about the city, because there's a lot of beautiful stuff in Concord that this community, their job is to work 2 jobs and come back home and cook for their kids, but they don't have time or space or opportunity to learn about the city. So their kids have had similar experience, you know. But let's invest in this community and making sure that we're creating opportunity for young people from marginalized communities to be able to access the city.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Hoadley.
Thank you for your time. I think we're going to come back for this.
Please do.
Please do. Thanks, Visto.
Adam Dodge.
Howdy, folks. Thank you for being here tonight. My name's Adam Dodge. I'm a Concord boy, born and raised. Went to the Marine Corps, came back. Concord's a great place. I was excited to have my 2 children in this Concord School District. We have 1 kid at Millbrook right now. I'm here to talk to you guys about the restructuring of positions, the elimination of 3 positions, and the retirement of one of those.
Could speak into the microphone a little
Yes.
more. Thank you.
All right, so came to our attention that 3 teachers were not invited back for next year, and a 4th, chose to retire and obviously isn't coming back. There was a statement made by Kathleen, superintendent, at the beginning of this meeting in regards to hours and days being important to the kids and the teachers being together. I actually wrote the quote down just because it's sort of pertinent to what I'm discussing today. I'm assuming you still hold by those comments about every minute, every hour, every second being important between a teacher and a student. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, fair, outstanding. I hold that same thought process. With that being said, my experience with some teachers in the district doesn't hold true to that value that you voiced earlier in the meeting. Unfortunately, my daughter has been a student that has had a teacher that's been absent for 30 days out of the classroom. Does that sound like is that a good thing to any of you? Does that sound appropriate or okay? Do we have standards that we follow for these things? If you guys don't show up to the board meetings, I'm assuming you're not going to be on the board anymore.
This is not usually a Q&A. Teachers
You
have
can call
medical leaves, and medical issues and other things
Understood.
like
But,
other
yeah,
people.
and my daughter goes to Concord School District and expects her teacher to be in her seat,
Yes.
teaching her. And every hour, every second is important per the school board.
Yes.
So that teacher is coming back to work next year at Middlebrook to do this all over again. It's not okay. And these 3 teachers that you let go, I'm very familiar with at least one of them and her attendance record. And it's nowhere near 30 days out of the classroom. It's unacceptable. And the method, do you guys know how you let those teachers go? Anybody?
Yes, we do.
You do. You picked out of a freaking bag. That's unacceptable. That's unprofessional garbage. You're better than that. We are better than that as a community. That's a failure. You guys still have the opportunity to go back and fix this. Yes, and I know I'm at my 3 minutes. It's a good time to conclude. Absolutely. Fix it. Do the
Thank
right
you.
thing. Hold people accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can respond after. Robert Massini.
Good evening. Robert Massini, Ward 5. I have an 8th grader at Runlet, graduate of Crystal McAuliffe School, and soon to be freshman at Concord High School. There's not enough time for me to sign in all the people I'm speaking for tonight. Their comment on this petition, which I think most of you have probably seen, asks you to rescind the board's vote last December to build a middle school at broken ground. It is now signed by just south of 1,100 people. That is a significantly large group of citizens telling you that they do not want a middle school at broken ground for reasons of exorbitant expense, burdensome taxation, environmental harm, and more. Last week, this board voted unanimously not to add a school resource officer at a cost of $100,000, citing public opposition to the idea. I thank you for that. But it makes me wonder, did that opposition rise to the level of 1,100 people? And would you not therefore respond likewise to 1,100 people expressing opposition to building at broken ground at a cost of $176 million? At last December's city council meeting in regard to the Beaver Meadow Clubhouse, one individual who gave public comment was Lindsay Hagberg. Just before the pandemic, Lindsay and her husband put down 20% on a $265,000 house in Concord. It was within their budget, and they started a family. But Lindsay and her husband, now with 2 young children, have watched their tax bill skyrocket by 33%, from $6,000 to $8,000. Lindsay broke down in tears before the council and an overflow crowd, lamenting that city officials are taxing her out of her home. She is only one of many in Concord who feel this way. Lindsay's distress was sparked by a $10.3 million clubhouse. That is small change compared to a middle school at $176 million. We hear a lot of talk about attracting young individuals and families to replace our aging workforce, that would be me, and to reverse our declining school enrollment, which plummeted by 13% in the past decade and continues to drop. Instead, city officials are driving people away from Concord by profuse spending that makes living here prohibitively expensive, not only for young people, but also for low-wage workers and for elders on fixed incomes. Concord, I'm sad to say, is fast becoming a place where only the well-off can afford to live well, and where more and more people can't afford to live here at all. It would be marvelous if all the people of Concord could approach the matter of the middle school with an attitude of enthusiasm about what's best for our kids, education, community, and ecology. A vote to rescind the broken ground decision would create that attitude. It would replace the present public anger and anxiety with optimism and trust that our city officials really mean it when they say that they care about listening to us, about rejecting suffocating taxation and alleviating environmental damage.
Thank you.
You can make that happen. There are at least 1,100 of us that hope you will.
Thank you, Mr. Massini. Heather Dodge.
Hi, guys. Obviously, Adam and I are out in full force for our kids tonight.
We appreciate that.
I'm here to wholeheartedly disagree with the cuts that are being made at Millbrook. I think we all can agree that a ratio of 1 to 15 is best for children to learn. And with the cuts that you have proposed, it leaves a ratio of 1 to 20 or 1 to 22. So we're adding 5 to 7 children to each class and each grade level, which is a lot. I want to just quote what her teacher said, because I heard of this today and I didn't have a ton of time to prepare. So here we are. While not all students at Millbrook are new English learners or on IEPs with special needs, the bigger class also affects those more traditional students. A teacher cannot take time to have small groups and push those ready to go beyond grade level. For example, Grace, my daughter, will do well in any class with any teacher. However, she will not do great. She will not be able to go above her grade level. When I taught her, I could bring her above K or first grade level because of the ability to have those small groups. I think this is huge. It speaks volumes to me as a parent. That's what I want. I want my child to do great, not just be okay. I want the best. And in those smaller classrooms, those teachers can really hone in on what is best for those children. And we have such a vast community at Millbrook. I have seen it with my own eyes. So many of these children don't speak English as their first language. Can you imagine that at 7 years old? They come from low-income families who are having hard times. I see this every day in the pickup and drop-off line. It is very apparent. These teachers need help, and we should not be cutting positions at a school that needs these positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dodge. Maria Pacelli. Yes, absolutely.
We're taking notes.
Taking notes.
We're listening.
You can see it if you want.
I did text my son to tell him it's time to go to bed. He's timing. Mrs. Pacelli.
The last time I spoke to you good folks was at that.
If you could speak into the microphone, please.
Sure. Was at the December 6th meeting, where we were all allowed to speak, but at the very end, each board member gave their opinion of why they were going to vote the way they were going to vote, to which we had no ability to respond. So I'm here now. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was a comment made, I believe, by Mr. Richards, who mentioned that 100 acres was being developed and suggested that the 8 acres we could get from there. The point that he missed was that given that other entities are damaging these green spaces, those 8 acres are all the more precious. And not just to flippantly say, go get it from the developers. The more others take, the more what remains is all the more priceless. And I also have heard over the past few meetings, this is the first one I could bear to come to, needed a few months, but there's been talk about expansion, possible expansion, possible expansion. So it's all nebulous. Maybe it's 8 acres, maybe it's not. The 8 acres doesn't include wetlands, but if there's expansion, who knows? And that's another reason we're all on pins and needles. So that was the most thing I wanted to say. But I also, in terms of building inclusive spaces, as someone who works with people with disabilities, I would encourage you to Google, it's an article called The Least Dangerous Assumption. You'll find that if you look And I think that that will give you all something to think about when you think about how critically important inclusion and inclusive spaces are.
Thank you. Charles Russell.
Good evening, Charles Russell of Concord. I'm a Ward 5 taxpayer and citizen, and I'm a member of Concerned Citizens of Concord, COCO-C. It's a new group, and they're concerned about the location of the middle school, the unresponsiveness of this board to the community values, problems with cost, unreasonable tax increases, and overall poor planning. In the fall of 2021, the school building application was filed with the state. I've seen it. It said $82 million. All of a sudden, boom, it's up to 178. No rationale, no explanation, and we hear from others how other communities can build schools in that time frame. But don't worry, because we're going to get 40% of the building aid. That 175 comes out to, let's see, $70 million. But the state building aid fund only has $50 million for the whole state of New Hampshire. So how are we going to get 70? Well, if your decisions were made premised on 40% of that building aid, it's no longer there. Let's do the math. We got 4,000 students. We got 2 parents, assuming they're all only child. That's 12,000 people. We got 45,000 people in the city. So you got 30,000 plus that don't have a horse in the race or a kid in school. They support education, but they're more concerned with the taxes, the tax burden. And as others have said, you're going to drive people out. The New Hampshire Constitution, Part 1-8 states, elected officers are the agents of the people and at all times accountable to them. Government should be open, accessible, and responsive. These basic tenets seem to go over the board's head. Government Constitution goes on to say when the ends of government are perverted and public endangered and all other means of redress ineffectual, the people may and ought to have right reform the old and establish a new government. Therefore, COCO-C is initiating a charter petition with an amendment that any board appropriations of more than $50 million would have to be approved by a public vote in this community. And it would be voted up or down, as you have seen in all these other communities. We're also considering a petition to remove the school board's autonomy if they don't want to listen to the people. 49B RSA says only 15% of the 7,000 voters would need to sign a petition to do that and get it on the ballot. That's 1,050 people. Mr. Mancini says we've already got 1,200, although they're electronic. Some of you are elected here with fewer votes than those 1,000 or those 1,200. So you can listen and you can be responsive and rescind that vote, or you can live with the consequences if this petition goes through and the people vote for it. In 1990, Bob Washburn and I collected well over 2,000 signatures, and we ended up with a mayor that was popularly elected by the people. So getting those signatures won't be difficult. However, the basic underlying assumptions of supporting a lot of these earlier decisions proved to be unfounded, like the school building aid. Don't continue down the path like I saw happen in Vietnam when errors were made and people kept pushing on and on and on, and I lost friends and people I went to school with in a war. Government in Washington is out of touch with the people in reality. Concord, COCO-C will not let that happen in Concord. Rescind the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Jeff Wells.
All right, good evening. I'm Jeff Wells, Ward 5. I'll be very brief so I can give some time to other people that need to speak. I've been in contact with Amy Clark of Department of Education. Section at 321.27, ineligibility for schooling building aid. This is relative to the auditorium superintendent. Building aid for a high school or middle school with an enrollment of 900 students would at most be eligible for only 450 seats. So that tells me that half of the auditorium would be paid by the taxpayer and not by school building aid. Another thing is the timeline that HMFH and I believe even your timelines is off by a whole year. I recently run across a video where there was a feasibility study that went out for bid in July of 2016. It was December of 2016 that the first time that the city of Concord, relative to the middle school, engaged with HMFH. So you're off by a year. This is going on too long. I don't know where this is going to end up. I don't know where your school building aid that you keep talking about, particularly Mr. Dunn, who is not here tonight, keeps reiterating that you're going to get $70 million. You're not going to get that money. And if you don't get that money, it's going to come back onto the taxpayer, and we're not going to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Stacy Brown.
Hi, Stacy Brown. I am a taxpayer, mother, and I was here just last week, and I have a correction. I had said that I saw an increase in conference and travel of $51,000 in the budget, and I was concerned about it. That was actually in last year's budget that I saw. So hopefully that money wasn't spent, and that can be applied towards educators. I also attended the building committee meeting, and Jay Burgess was identified as the city's representative. I talked with the city manager, and he said no. And I talked to Jay Burgess, and he said he didn't even know he was on the committee until after the first meeting. So when you're talking about having meetings with the city, I hope they're public, because I'm concerned about how the city is being characterized at these meetings as being a partner. I want to reflect on what Mr. Wells just talked about, the feasibility study from 2017. Thank you very much, Terry Wolf, for how you've organized the middle school website, because you can look at this feasibility study and it lists Runlet as being the ideal location for a new middle school. 6 to 8, it's not good for partnering with the Y, but we know now that that's not something we want to do. It said that it's a compact location. It would be minimal impact on students, minimal impact on the resident, great for parking, and there would even be room for an extra field, an extra baseball field. So I thought that was fascinating. Please go back and look at that HMFH feasibility study from 2017. I'd also like to thank Ms. Robinson and all of you for really being focused on keeping taxes low. Now, that is really important because we have so many projects that we want to do, and taxes are going up even without this new middle school. So you have an opportunity to prevent taxes rising by saying no to unnecessary infrastructure. In 2019, Broken Ground was ruled out because of the infrastructure. Jack Dunn was, Matt Cashman was saying, no, it will require water pressure, booster pressure, it will require traffic, it will require more infrastructure, and that's too costly. It was ruled out in 2019. So why would you put that on taxpayers now? You can eliminate, we have the sustainability committee meeting. How wonderful for you to be able to rescind the vote and tell them, yes, we're going to achieve sustainability by not cutting down trees, by encouraging walkability where there is infrastructure for our middle school. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Fox.
Thank you. I'm Catherine Fox. I'm a 30-plus year resident of Concord, having 2 kids who went through the Concord School District. I'm also part of an avid user group of the Broken Ground Trails, and my kids were able to walk and bike to school, and that was great. As I see this new structure going in, tax has already been talked about. I worry about the destruction of forest and the trails that already exist there, and kids that are now going to have to take the bus that could have walked to school, and that's clearly an environmental impact. And we heard earlier about the cost of bus transportation. So there's a plot of land that can be used and another plot of land that can't be destroyed or ought not be destroyed. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Bodine.
Hi there, Lisa Bodwin, Ward 4. I am so appreciative of all the school board members and the Concord School District staff and teachers. You all are incredibly committed to education. I did have the opportunity to take a tour of Redlet Middle School last week. And as someone who served as chair of the New Hampshire SAC for 4 years, and as someone who is a disability policy professional, I was deeply concerned about the degree to which students with disabilities are segregated in the current middle school. And as someone who is sitting on the building committee, I was not a part of the first meeting because I found out after that the current schematic has several spaces that are segregated for students with disabilities. And I would like to say that Concord really ought to be moving toward a culture of belonging and inclusion for students with disabilities inside of general education classrooms. There are a number of resources, including SWIFT. Educators and especially administrators know a whole bunch more about this. I'm a policy wonk, not an education professional. But I do know that inclusion works, and I know from the indicators that the disproportionality in the district has enormous room for improvement. We want students with disabilities to be staged for success. We want the transformation of our district staff who are extraordinarily committed educators. However, our state schools teach teachers to think of themselves as, I'm a general education teacher and I'm a special education teacher. These are my students, those are those students. And unfortunately, teacher prep programs don't provide teachers with the tools to have all learners in their classrooms. So it falls on districts to create cultures of belonging and inclusivity. And I have tons more to say, but I will close with this. I appreciate your patience.
It's the Tom Croto effect.
This is a Martin Luther King quote from Letter from a Birmingham Jail. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. I want to encourage the school board to incorporate teacher training that ensures that wherever the middle school students are located, that the beliefs, skills, and systems are in place for our educators to make sure that general education is the place from which all learners are expected to be, and then get the supports and services they need for success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Mikulowicz.
Good evening, same face, different month. I'm here to add my voice to those others who request that the board rescind the decision of citing the proposed new middle school at the broken ground location and rebuild it on the present South Street site. I also look forward to the day in the near future when the citizens of Concord are allowed to vote on school budgets, school bonds, and important school referenda. These decisions should not be left to 9 individuals, or even 5 individuals, although duly elected to the position, though they may be. but put in the hands of the voters of Concord. Representative democracy only works when you can trust those whom you elect to follow the will of their constituents. And it only works when citizens are informed in a transparent manner of all the particulars that surround a given issue. That has not happened with respect to recent issues. We have as yet had no dialogue, no true dialogue. I intend to join others in making needed alterations to the existing education charter, which will allow Concord citizens to participate in a direct democracy. As Rachel Maddow says, watch this space.
Thank you.
Kathy Kitchell.
Hello, I'm Kathy Kitchell, and I am an advocate for refugee children. I know we have been talking about the fact that Runlet Middle School does not have a family liaison. The elementary schools have one, the high school has one, Runlet Middle School does not have one. I have been the family liaison there for the last 5 years. This is my 6th year there. I'm paid by Accentria, not paid by the Concord School District. So I've spent 30 hours for the last 5 years there. This year, it was decided that my company is like, why are we paying you to do this job at the Concord School District? They offered me another position, which I took, and I had met with Kathleen and John a few different times. They understand how I feel. I am terrified leaving these children. I'm there for 8 hours now. I am not fighting for this position for myself. I'm fighting for this position for somebody to be at that school. It takes, and I know people have talked about Lauren at the high school can help out. She works with a lot of the same families, that we have a social worker at Runlet now. I work with Lauren very closely. A lot of our children have only made it to 8th grade. She doesn't have all our families at the high school. So it's not fair to put these kids that come in kindergarten on her plate. And again, why doesn't Runlet, why is it the only school that doesn't have a family liaison? These are middle school kids that are going through things that they need to have some extra eyes on them. Part of my job, I run into children in the hallway that have just gotten in trouble in class. They don't know why. And they're looking sad, and I'm like, what's up? And they'll tell me, because they know, I'm kind of like that commercial on TV, well, he really said this. And we get through that. I go to behavioral meetings with the principal, with the assistant principals. These kids will yes you to everything. The principal will tell them, Johnny, you did this, you did this. Yes, I did. I'll look at them, Johnny, do you know what that means? They'll just give me a little shy no. So these meetings that I'm not in, I'm not even sure how much of the things that these children are hearing that they don't understand, but when they leave, administration is like, we had a great conversation, they understood everything. They don't. Another example, I had a 6th grade boy, reads and writes in 3 different languages. English is not one of them. He was in our school maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks. Thank goodness it was a substitute teacher. Science class, not an easy class for a refugee student. These kids don't come from Canada. He couldn't read, and he went up to her and said, I can't read this. And she said, you are in 6th grade. Of course you can read. Go sit down. This child came to me later feeling very sad and said, Miss Kitchell, it's my fault. I can't read. Had he not had somebody there who could listen to him, I went right to the principal, and she said, this person will never sub here again. These kids need somebody who can keep track of them, who can see them in the wings when they don't know somebody is looking, who can tell in the cafeteria, these kids are not eating lunch today. Why? I walk in, I see them. Mom told me we can't afford it.
Ms. Kitchell, if you could wrap up.
Okay, so I'm just begging you, I really truly am, I'm pleading and begging you to please reconsider the fact that Runlet Middle School needs a family liaison. They need somebody besides the social worker that has 800 students they need somebody else that can keep an eye on these kids. We're going to lose them through the cracks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen Kenny.
Hi, I'm Ellen Kinney, Ward 4. I want to once again thank the members of this board for their sense of civic responsibility. This is an incredibly tough job, and the meetings alone would be enough to put off many, even when you're not facing a community in which many disagree with your decision-making.
Speak up.
On a positive note, in this time when so many of us are sequestered in our own political silos, talking, interacting, and socializing only with those who agree with our own politics, your December 6th vote and the ensuing movement to rescind this vote has brought together Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, fiscal conservatives, liberals, anti-taxers, and educators. So again, thank you, in this case, for bringing us all together under one big tent, united in common cause. I've been here before, and some of you are probably wondering why I keep coming back, and the answer is because I have nowhere else to go with my concern. I tried the mayor, I wrote him a letter, received a response that was prompt, bland, and completely lacking in substance. This is because he knows, just like all of us know, this 9-member board is autonomous and doesn't have to answer to the city's policymakers. And so I'm here again, not as an antagonist, but as a supplicant. In other words, I'm here to beg. Climate change and the rapid decline of biodiversity are the stark legacy that generations that have gone before us, including us, are leaving to our children. In the name of our children, our youngsters, our kiddos, as I've heard them referred to here, we're making a decision that flies in the face of responsible stewardship. Rather than using land that already is cleared and has the necessary infrastructure for a middle school, we're choosing to build one in part of our fragile and rapidly vanishing woodlands. We're tearing down trees that provide habitat each spring and summer for migratory songbirds, many species of which are in decline, that depend on contiguous wooded areas for their survival. Is this the legacy we want for our children? In a time when climate change is altering every part of our planet, we're choosing to cut down carbon sequestering woods. At a time when flooding has grown commonplace in New England, we're stripping the woods that buffer the Millbrook in East Concord, which drains into the Merrimack, eliminating the roots that hold the soil and absorb the water. Is this the legacy we want for our children? And when we acknowledge the importance of having a walkable city, because transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gases in New Hampshire, we're choosing to build in an area that a tiny minority of children will be able to walk to, and also in a place that lacks any proximity to the high school, which we've previously argued is very important for our middle schoolers. And until this board votes to rescind that decision, I'm going to keep on begging in the hope that our legacy as the adults in charge is not one of short-sightedness, feckless stewardship, and regret. And if the vote is not rescinded, Concord's young students at Broken Ground and Millbrook will have a front row seat to habitat destruction and do as I say, not as I do, adult hypocrisy. Think about that, please. We're better than this. We're smarter than this, and it's not too late to do the right thing.
Thank you. And that was our last speaker, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Superintendent, I wonder if I could ask you just to take a minute to explain how the seniority process for teachers, and we had 4 retirements that we did not fill. They were across different elementary schools. We had 1-year positions that went back into their regular positions that were then supplanted people who were on 1-year contracts. when we decide which teachers on one-year contracts stay, what is the process for that?
So you had 4 vacancies, right, due to retirements, okay? Now, it wasn't as simple as when somebody retires, that was the class that we shut down, because it depended on what the numbers were. So we had to examine all classrooms across the district, as you recall. When we were doing, all of those 4 teachers then will be placed, they did not lose their jobs. Those 4 teachers will be placed in other schools where there was a retiree, where there was a retirement, or in the case where we had to put a teacher into a position. So that's how those were filled. We had some positions that they were of equal. They were nominated on the same day. They were elected by you on the same day. So they were absolutely the same. So working with the CEA, they made the decisions about who went to what positions. And the only way they did that was it was an agreement with the Teachers Association that they simply pulled a number out of a hat or a bag, whatever, and that was who chose first, and then they picked a number. Whoever had the highest number, they got the position first, because people had the identical time in the district as well as when they were elected by you. So we had no other way to determine who would get it, because they were identical. And we continue to look at our teachers. Now, you know that when the math coaches went back into the classrooms, that had 1-year people were in those positions. In other words, those professionals were given a 1-year contract, because there was never a guarantee that those positions would stay. We had ESSER funds, which we knew we only had for 3 years, so you use those funds, and Title II funds to be able to support those, but some of those 1-year people some of them have got jobs because they're dual certified.
Your microphone is off.
Can't hear you.
Louder.
You need to speak
Close.
And some of those have dual certification.
Maybe
Yeah.
turn it-
Switch to 2.
battery died.
We're alive.
That one sounds good.
Sorry, is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. So some of those 1-years are now looking at positions that we have in the district. For instance, when you have somebody who announces that they're resigning, or we have staff that are asking for a leave of absence, those positions are filled by folks who have been with us. Some of them are, they're all over the district. In other words, it's not just one school. So I'm not sure what that point was, but it was a fair process. I'm giving equal opportunity for everyone.
Go ahead, Ms. Hastings.
It was reported that Friday was a very difficult day for our staff, as we know. And one thing I'd like to clarify is, did this taking numbers out of a hat, or however it was decided, happen on Friday morning? And who made that decision that that should take place on Friday morning before they taught for the day?
Well, I think the decision was made between our office and the union. So, that was something that Michelle and Mike worked together to do it. I mean, it wasn't just one place. So,
Right. Well, I just can't imagine asking somebody to do
Mr.
that.
McRae, if you want to come down.
And then having to go teach for the rest of the day. No wonder there was upset at the schools. I can't imagine anybody would have agreed to that. Why not Friday afternoon?
It's so barbaric to make them pull out of the bag.
How about a metric instead of just they've been here for 5 days equally? Maybe the teachers aren't just numbers like performance. Maybe they're.
Excuse me, if we could not do the shouting out, we'd appreciate it. Mr. McRae?
Yeah, excuse me. To clarify, it was an unfortunate situation. It was like Hunger Games. It was not fun. There was a lot of tears.
They can't hear you.
If you
I'm
could
Mike Macri,
identify
I'm president of Teachers Union, and I'm a teacher at Broken Ground School. So the decision was made. Some administrators preferred, a lot of the teachers knew what was coming, and they preferred to do it early. We need to look at the process. The language in the contract talks about a lottery to figure out. I've only experienced this once before, and it was about 15 years ago, so it's not a common occurrence. As of today, there are 5 teachers that are not going to be employed in Concord next year.
One-year contract teachers?
Let's get over the one-year contract. Right now, one-year contract teachers have the same rights as continuing contracts with the new language we bargain. So it's by date of hire. That's the only variable. And I think the superintendent would agree. Michelle and I talked about this. It's part of the contract.
But it doesn't go to my point of who made the decision to do it Friday morning, because it was a very poor decision.
I think it was the principals, right, Michelle?
The building administrators, based on the fact that their teachers knew that this was coming and they were concerned and wanted to address it in the morning and not make them wait until the end of the day.
Some of the teachers had to leave immediately. They were too upset. They had to leave the building.
So they didn't end up teaching that day anyway.
Yes.
Right, so that was not a good choice. I hope we've learned from it.
Well, it wasn't my decision. I mean, we could look at that language next time we bargain and try to change it and make it somehow friendlier, but I don't know how you tell people they're no longer employed, or the fact that they have to leave the building that they've been in for 5 years and have connections and have community, and all of a sudden their summer's looking a lot different because they're going to a new building, having to set up a new classroom. It's unfortunate.
Thank you, Mr. Macri. Our next item is personnel. Superintendent?
Do we need to
I'm
do?
sorry.
We were going to do a vote.
Oh,
on the
yes,
last
I'm
day.
sorry. Is there a motion on the last day of school?
I move that June 12th be considered the last day of school for the Concord School District, of course pending any potential snow days that could happen within the next week, which would make it June 13th. Is that an appropriate motion?
Yes, Ms. Robinson moves, second by Mr. Cotton.
What if there's 2 snows? Then it'll go to the 14th.
Well, then let's,
yeah.
why don't we amend the motion to allow the superintendent to set the
No, that's a good question.
last day based on the number of snow days we may use this week.
I'm happy with that friendly amendment.
Mr. Cotton, are you good with that?
Second. I'm
All
fine
right.
with
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Leaves of absences.
You each got a pink envelope that has a leave of absence request for a teacher seeking a 1-year leave of absence.
Is there a motion to approve the leave of absence?
So moved?
Moved by Ms. Hastings.
Second.
Second by Ms. Boucher. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Who did the second?
Motion carries.
I did.
Oh,
Boucher.
Sarah, Boucher? Sorry.
Sorry.
Ms. Guerin,
We're right next to each other.
nominations of certified instructional staff, 24-25, that's on
Page 83.
83.
There's 9 pages of certified staff.
Okay. I'm sorry, could I ask folks if you have conversations just to take them outside or into the hallway in the back? Thank you. Do we have a motion on the CA?
The CEA nomination?
CEA.
CEA.
CEA nominations.
So
B,
moved.
moved by Ms. Hastings. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cotton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. CAA nominations?
Yeah, that's the administrator that
Okay.
Kathleen is bringing forward.
Our page numbers are a little off, I think.
Sorry.
Yep.
That's okay. Find it.
So anyway, I think you had a chance to meet Mr. Largy tonight, and so I'm pleased to be able to place his name in nomination for the position of athletic director, also coordinator for physical education and sports. And I think that we're pleased that he'll be with us, and will bring some of his experience in Goffstown and Nashua to Concord. So,
Any
Move approval.
moved by Mr. Cotton? Is there a second?
Second. Oh,
Second by Mr. Richards. Further discussion.
Very
All-
happy to have him.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The enhanced veteran salary schedule.
Can I just pause real quick? Do I need to make note that Barb has left
Yes.
the meeting?
I don't know what time that was.
It was about 7:45.
And that was prior to public comment?
It
or
was during
midway,
public,
okay.
middle of public comment.
Thank you.
Oh, she just like left.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a. There
Oh,
was
she
a-
had to.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Enhanced veteran
The
salary
enhanced-
schedule.
The enhanced veteran salary schedule and veteran salary schedule, it is marked page 84. There is a revision on the document that went onto the live board packet, not the paper board packet that you guys have received. There was a change since those were printed. So if you look at number 2, under the VSS, which is the lower portion, Sharon Surratt has moved up to the ESS, to the top portion. That's the only change.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve the enhanced veteran salary schedule?
So move, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Brenda's got it.
Brenda's got
Moved
it.
by Ms. Hastings. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cotton. Further discussion.
I just want to say I want to thank them for their service. They've all, as you can see, they've all been here, a very long time, and we wish them well.
Got him for a little more.
We got him for a while.
I hope so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Spring coach nominations. If spring is actually going to come. We didn't
One of
have
these
winter. We're having
days.
winter now.
Yes, so we have some new names brought forward for spring coach nominations for the 2024 spring season. A Ryan Daniels for intramural strength coach, a Juliana Messina for assistant track, Matthew Campbell for assistant flag football, Scott Geyer for intramural flag football, and Brett Steinhilber for boys B lacrosse team.
I move acceptance of the full slate of spring coaches as presented by Michelle Guerin.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Robinson, second by Ms. Campbell. Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Communications and Policy Committee. Page 87. Ms. Meeker, are you going to take this?
Sure. This may look familiar, and it's because it is. The last time we met, we officially approved Concord School District Policy 530, the wellness policy. After that policy was approved, it was noted that in an attempt to abbreviate some of the language of who will sit on the Wellness Advisory Committee, that we narrowed it, well, we broadened it to school staff, and in doing so took off the school nurse from the list of people that sit on the committee. We wanted to make very clear that the school nurse, as an individual, should be on the wellness committee. So I come to you humbly this evening for a technical correction, because it is within the intention of the original policy to just make sure that we've got school nurse on the list. You will see on page 93 highlighted in yellow that they're back on. Yes, please.
And I just want to thank the school nurses for saying something. I think it's important that we can just miss something, and we're not here to exclude anyone. And we would like the public to, and staff, to say something if they think that we are not representing the way that we should be.
Agreed.
Do you need a motion for acceptance of the technical?
I will move that we make the technical correction to policy 530.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Boucher. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution on state funding for schools, page 95. Ms. Robinson, would you like
Yeah.
to speak to this?
I'm happy to. So there are several districts throughout the state that have created similar resolutions. I think the public who paid attention to the budgeting process for our district recognizes significant loss in adequacy aid compared to last year, which is a very large amount that we're needing to overcome. So it feels poignant that our board requests that the legislature acknowledge the court decisions in the Conval and Rand cases. And this is specifically if folks are curious, we really want to see the adequacy amount that is currently $4,100, which is unconstitutionally low, that the legislature must increase base adequacy to at least $7,356.01 plus the cost of transportation. There's additional language, but folks can read it if they feel so inclined. Thank you very much to the board for being receptive to this. We join a long line of districts asking the legislature to do their job, which they have avoided doing for decades.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
Well, why don't we move it for discussion?
You go ahead and move it.
Okay, I move that the board accept the education funding resolution presented in the board packet this evening.
Is there a second? Second, moved by Ms. Robinson, second by Ms. Campbell. It is now open for discussion. Mr. Cotton.
First of all, thank you for putting this together, and I very strongly support it. My only question is, why are we only asking the legislators from the city of Concord to work on this, and why are we only trying to limit the tax burden on the taxpayers of Concord as opposed to the entire state?
I think that's a great question, Bob. This process was originally initiated in Franklin. We are one of a dozen districts at this point, and the number of districts creating resolutions are growing. I think I know that the School Funding Fairness Project of New Hampshire is curating all of these for distribution to the entirety of the legislature, just to prove that school boards are feeling this pinch, this forced local taxation that continues to come down from the state level. And our most immediate connection that we have is to our directly elected representatives. That's really where we do have the most push, but we are joining a large coalition to impress upon the entirety of the legislature that this is imperative for our schools to be able to thrive into the future. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I do support it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I hope a lot more towns and cities do this.
Me too. We're seeing a lot more catch on.
Sarah, is there some place where we can see a list of which districts?
Yeah, the New Hampshire School Fair Funding Project has compiled a PDF of all of these resolutions, and you can access it on their website.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Superintendent, monthly enrollment reports.
You'll find those enrollment reports on page 96 and 97. We've spent a lot of time on these the last couple of months, so it's pretty clear. We continue to watch the Deerfield numbers come in. Right now, I think I told you last week that we're at a 25-20 split. They have 47 youngsters in their 8th grade class. 25 have chosen Concord High School, 20 Cole Brown, and 2 some other choice, and could be a parochial school or a charter school. So I don't have that data. We'll get more of that information. But we continue to watch the numbers and the patterns of enrollment, especially when you look at the enrollment down at the younger grades. You have to pay attention to that. And I like everyone else, I have to comment that, nobody wants to be in the position that our district was in, or Pembroke, or my neighbor, or Auburn, or Chester, who lost $500,000 in a very small budget.
Yeah.
So, we're all faced with this, and so we have to, one of the ways, when you have a budget that's 80%, salary and benefits, most important thing we have are our teachers, right? But, it also is the area where you have to pay attention to that. That's why I put it in your packet every month, and it's available to the public. I don't see too many changes. John reminds me, we still have a lot of youngsters in our preschool programs that, are requiring, services. Now, those preschool programs, don't be confused that it's 5 days a week and a regular 6.5-hour day for the children. Sometimes it's children just coming in for, maybe speech and language OT or PT. Maybe it's only a half a day, 3 times a week. But, again, they're all of our students who deserve some attention. So, I guess that's pretty much where we stand right now. I don't see any major changes.
Great. Proposed calendar of meetings.
Yeah, again, if you want to look at your April calendar, this week you have a building committee meeting this week at 5:30. This is going to be weather dependent, so we'll get messages out should the weather prevent us from being together. So we'll keep you posted on that. Following week, negotiations and finance. I think if Jack were here, he'd share, but Michelle too. Both Jack and Michelle have been doing some work with, we have several groups we're negotiating with, so we want to bring you up to speed on what's happening with those, along with a finance report. Communication and policy. We have couple of important policies coming up, and especially the one on restraint and seclusion, which we want to kind of take another peek at and then get ready for the next board meeting. Sustainability Committee on the 11th, mentioned that earlier tonight. The 15th is an executive committee and city and community relations. I want to really, city and community, we haven't met for a while, Sarah, and we ought to put together an agenda, and we are going to meet with the city and have some discussions between the school board and the city folks on the council. So that's, in preparation of that, it'll be the 15th. Instructional committee on the 17th, and a program working group. It says tentative, but when we did this calendar, we're pretty sure, we need these program meetings. There's a lot of discussion at those meetings, so it's not tentative. Spring break is the week of the 22nd. Our schools are closed and our students are off for wherever they go, so that week. We're back in on the board meeting on Wednesday, Capitol Facilities. Matt needs to, touch base with that group in order to start updating you on all the, the capital improvement plan, which he's been working on, updating that, but also the summer projects, just to give you a heads up. I know you have a good idea of what's going to happen this summer, but he'll bring you the committee up to speed on that. School board meeting on the 6th, negotiations and finance. Following week, communication and instruction. Back to your regular routine. You can see that, right? All your committee meetings. 20th is executive committee and city and community. And of course, Memorial Day on the 27th. So
Coming into a close real fast, huh?
yeah, we didn't mention tonight. Didn't I mention that? No. When's that? May 16th, the instructional committee, if I did. Kim reminds me of
I
that.
just wanted to make sure, is Wednesday okay for you? Because I think that's why we didn't do them on Wednesdays in the past, because that wasn't a good day for you.
Oh, that's fine.
It's okay. Okay, good.
Play
Thank you.
tennis anymore.
Okay.
So we're
sorry,
moving it
just to-
back to the 15th.
Back to the win, yeah.
Yeah.
Instructional
No,
is moving from May 16th to May 15th.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
thank
did
you.
not know that. So we'll make that change in your calendar. That's a month ahead, so you'll see this again. I just want to remind you that high school graduation is still for the June 15th. Please let us know if you are planning on attending. It's tough to get you a robe. If you know, we let us know if you're going to attend. That would be helpful. And it's a great event. I would urge you to be there. It's just makes your work come to reality when you see it.
And I'm sorry, what was the date for that again?
excuse me, the date, 15th?
June 15th. Thank you.
Yeah.
And actually, I have a question. Is there ever a way we can have a board meeting in the Heights, maybe the community center one month? And then proactively reach out to people that, or is that?
One of the problems is we can't do the meetings live. And so we have to record it, and then, we can do that. I mean, you've done that before. You did your budget meeting out at Beaver Meadow.
Right.
And we know
recorded.
we have done it in Millbrook and Broken Ground previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just hearing, like, just throwing it out there, we obviously won't decide tonight, but.
Some districts will rotate their meetings, and they'll visit different sections and areas of the city or the
Right.
town that they live in, and go to different schools. Everybody's a little different. It's you don't have,
We can,
you have
we can
some-
certainly look at that.
Thank you.
At the next executive committee meeting. right?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With that, we have a second public comment period that we hold if we don't use our 30 minutes that are required by the state. We use them tonight. So Superintendent, do we need a non-public
Yeah, I would like to
session?
do a non-public under 91A. I just have to go to so I make sure I have the right number. Thank you. I want to go under RSA 91A3, Section 2A, personnel matter.
Great. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson. Is there a second?
Second.
This is a roll call.
Who seconded?
Ms. Boucher.
Thank you.
Who made that? I'm sorry.
I
Sorry,
made
Sarah
Robinson.
motion, and then
You guys are
Liz.
fast.
I know, they're.
And second was Liz. Okay.
Trying to get there.
All right, Ms. Boucher?
Yes.
Yes to entering non-public?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cotton?
Yeah.
Ms. Hastings?
Yes.
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
And I am a yes.